everybody, Cindy Daychuck here with Queen Bee Creations. And today I've got a fun little craft for you that really isn't that complicated, but is super cute. And it's these little wooden Christmas trees. So it does require a little bit of sawing, but you could do it with a handsaw, you could do it with a jigsaw. It doesn't take a lot of finesse to be able to cut these out, and no major complicated math on angles because I can't do that. I could do it, don't want to do it, so I don't want to put you through it. So I'll give you a couple of tips and hints along the way to make this all as simple as possible. Little bit of paint, little bit of stamping, little bit of stenciling, and they're yours. You can see how super cute they look lined up along the mantle. Obviously I've done more than you might want to do, but in a grouping of three different sizes, I think that they're going to be awesome for your holiday decor. As always, you can get any of the paint and the supplies I'm going to use at queenbeecreationshome.com or check out a local distributor if you are not in Canada. Let's get started. In this picture, you can see where I've drawn out each of the trees. I used a base of 8, 6, and 4 inches respectively. The point is just simply the halfway point. Drew it onto some wood, and you'll see the bases are already attached. All we did was we glued those on, left them overnight so that they were already attached when we went to cut out each of the trees. Here we're using a jigsaw. A handsaw would work just as well. Just follow the lines and cut along. And it's really pretty easy. It doesn't matter if they're perfectly straight lines or not. For the base, what we did was we used exactly the same piece of wood so that the width would be the same. We used it for the trunk and we used it for the base. And what we measured was simply 1.5 inches on either side of the trunk. We found that to be the perfect width to be nice and stable for the project. And it really held the trees up fine. We then just simply clamped the tree down and we nailed the base up into the trunk of the tree. And we found 2 nails worked super well, gave it a lot of stability, and we didn't have any problems beyond that. So you can see we're positioning on the base and they get nailed in, fancy nail gun, and we're done. Once finished, just take them over. I used my little electric sander, sand them smooth, stain them because I know I want to distress it, so I want some of the stain to show. And I painted 2 coats of white paint. Here I'm using DIY beadboard. Hey everybody, we are now at the stage where we have got our Christmas trees assembled and they have been coated in dark and decrepit and then received 2 coats of white paint. Just because I'm going to be doing a little bit of distressing and I do want a little bit of that dark to be able to peek out. If you don't, then don't do the dark and decrepit first. Don't do the dark staining. Now we are going to do a little bit of wood graining. So I just like to lay the Christmas tree flat. And for this, we're going to be doing a little bit of stamping. And what I have is the IOD, let me make sure I tell you the right name, barnwood planks. And this comes in a double set. So you end up with a lot of different options in terms of graining that you're able to do. They're pretty wide planks, as you can see. And so I'm doing it so that they're a little bit more narrow. And I'm just using black. And I'm using the black as opposed to the gray. Only because I'm going to be sanding these and it's going to lighten it up a lot anyway. So what I like to do is to take 2 of the options. And so with these stamps always, when they're brand new, lightly sand them first so that you give the ink a little bit of something to be able to stick to. And I just take the stamp pad up and down across it in a row, and this makes my nice narrow planks about the width of whatever stamp pad that you have. And then it is as simple as lifting it up, placing it along the bottom, and I just want to have enough on the far edge to overlap so that my graining will go all the way across my tree. You don't want to move the stamp up and down, because then you're going to smudge your graining and then lift off. And I like to alternate rows with different wood styles, which I find just makes it a little bit more interesting when I've got the finished product. Now when I go to re-stamp using that same stamp, I'm kind of moving it along so that I get a different pattern, but also because my ink has already been pressed off of the one edge. So I'm kind of alternating, and it works out great because as this gets more narrow, I have less and less of my stamp to be able to use that still has ink remaining. So works out great. And the nice thing about this too is it's very forgiving, because if you have areas where, oh, I didn't get as much ink there, it's gonna work out perfect. You're gonna have a little bit of a space, and that's pretty much natural for wood trees anyway. So we are simply doing this. Now, which looks great, and it actually, once it's sanded, which I will show you, gets even better looking. Now, when it comes to the trunk, I want the graining to go up and down, and so I just tend to use a part of the stamp that I've already got kind of inked. I don't do the base, but that looks pretty darn cute. Now we've got another step to go, so I want to do all the sanding, then we're going to be putting some words on this. But I'm going to carry on, pull you back in when I get to the sanding part so you can kind of see the before and after, and then we'll do the next step. Okay, we're here for our next to last piece of the puzzle here. We have our trees finished, they're stamped, they're ready to go. I did, after the stamping, do a little bit more sanding on the edges and just to soften the look. You saw that. So now we want to do a little bit of stenciling. And for this, I want to put on some red lettering. It's gonna pop a little bit more, and it's gonna make it a little bit more Christmassy. So on the big trees, I put in the word peace. On the medium-sized, I put in the word love. And on the small size, I'm gonna put in the word joy. Now for this, what I am using are the Jamie Ray vintage stencils. I carry them here in the shop, queenbeecreationshome.com. And these are the small farmhouse letters. Now they come on one big sheet. I cut them into strips. So they're just a little bit easier to manipulate, to be able to use for your projects. Don't cut them into small little letters, it will drive you crazy. And for this, I always start with the last letter of the word, and I work backward, so make sure you're spelling backward properly. But just I find that that makes it a lot easier to be able to get the spacing done nicely. So for this, I'm using DIY paint in Carnival Red, which is a lovely, bright, Christmassy red. And I'm just offloading my little mini stencil brush. And I'm just going to be pouncing lightly with a fairly dry brush to be able to get my letters nice and crisp, right? So there's our Y. And I love these stencils, these stencils in this shape, because they're just so kind of nice and tall and elongated and simple looking. So it's not this big, heavy word. You could use any lettering stencil of your choice. Just make sure that whatever size it is going to fit. So obviously you got to make sure like the word peace fits, or whatever word you're choosing. I had thought of some other words that I was going to put in. They didn't work so well. So I just kind of switched around what I was going to have the three of them say, and I think that ultimately peace, love, joy works really well for the holidays anyway. And so selling them together as a set. Sorry about the noise, those are the guys next door. This is through big concrete walls, so imagine what it sounds like on their side. But there you have it. So we've got the word joy there, and really all that you're looking to do at this stage, let it dry, sand it lightly because this is a little bit distressed, let the word be a little bit distressed, and then wax your piece. And then you end up with a beautiful little Christmas tree set that's going to work in any of your decor. Nice and simple, nice and clean, beautiful little project.